Speaker Casada and his Republican leadership team are supposed to be public officials, but as we've seen, they tried to use public money to lead the lifestyles of the rich and famous. We've seen reports of no-show jobs for their friends and political operatives. We've seen reports of massive increases of expenditures that are unexplained, bizarre vendor contracts for things nobody ever needed before, and bigger offices, and all sorts of other expenditures. The public has a right to know how much of the tab for this Casada team lifestyle did the public pay for? How much was paid for by the taxpayers? Before we head into special session, the public needs to understand how many of these expenditures were illegal. How many of these expenditures involve using public money for private activities or public money for political activities, which is unlawful and improper. We cannot simply wander into special session not knowing a full accounting of all of the money wasted by the Casada team. We need to understand, for all the people hired by Casada, how many were hired, as has been reported, for no-show jobs in which they just did political work for the speaker or his friends. When we're talking about these extraordinary expenditures first reported by the Nashville Tennessean, we need to understand what happened with those expenditures. Is this just the tip of the iceberg? It's been reported that the costs for the legislature increased dramatically under Speaker Casada. We know much of it was misused. How precisely was that money spent? We've also seen reports that as part of his team's lifestyle, Speaker Casada and others used public property, such as aircraft, to fly all over the state. In one instance, flying up to the city of Clarksville, which you can drive to in about 45 minutes. We need to understand the full nature of the misuse of public property. So today we're proposing a three-point program to get to the bottom of the Casada team's misuse of public funds. First, I've called this morning for the Comptroller of the Treasury to conduct a full investigation into all the expenditures by the legislature and specifically by the Speaker's office since Speaker Casada's election. Second, we're calling again on the District Attorney of Nashville to immediately commence an investigation into these no-show jobs that have been repeatedly reported. The Davidson County delegation sent a letter specifically requesting that the district attorney conduct that investigation. It's time for him to explain what the next step is. Obviously, that's a potential crime that needs to be investigated. Third, this morning we've made an open records request to the Office of the Speaker for all the underlying records showing the expenditures by the Office of the Speaker, all these bizarre vendor contracts that have been reported, and all of the other expenditures and use of monies by the Speaker's office. All of this money we're talking about is taxpayer money. It's thousands and thousands, potentially millions of dollars of money hard-earned by the taxpayers and then handed over to us, those of us in a position of trust. I think that trust was violated by Speaker Casada. We've already seen that. What we need to understand is the extent of the violation. We need to understand, was it just Speaker Casada, or were other people ladling into this gravy train? Were other people benefiting from the free aircraft, the political staffers paid for by the public, and the like? We need to understand the full scope of the misuse of public money before we go forward into the special session and start making more decisions for the public. My colleague Gloria Johnson has shown up today. I know she has very strong feelings about wasting public money, and I'd turn it over to her for comments.
Well, I just want to reiterate what Representative Stewart has said. I talk to people in my district every single day, and the question is always, when is Speaker Casada going to be gone? They recognize the corruption. They recognize what's happened. I've never seen so many people so informed, and I'm just hearing it every single day when I'm at home back in Knoxville. Actually, I heard it this morning in Nashville. And the reality is, untold amounts of money have been spent. We know that remodels for offices for $8,000 or $9,000 in a year-old building, and it took me 2 months to get a key to my office. So, you know, things have not been working right. They've not been working well. And we've got to get the house back in order, and we need to make sure that we have an accounting of everything that's taken place.
Yes, we can't allow the special session to be used as a scheme to sweep all these problems under the rug. The fact of the matter is the public paid for this building, the public pays for the legislature's operations, and the public has a right to know what happened with every single dime of its tax dollars. We do not need to wander into special session uninformed and allow the Republican leadership to try to sweep all this under the rug. That is not going to happen. This is going to be fully investigated. When we receive the documents for our open records requests, we're going to place them all on the internet so that the public can be aware of everything that occurred, and the public will have the ability to review those materials themselves. With that, we'd open it up to questions.
Have you all gotten any response, the Davidson County delegation, from the district attorney on the initial request for an investigation into the misuse of funds?
There has not been a response in the sense of a statement in which the district attorney has explained what he plans to do.
I'm sorry, I think I missed when you guys requested that investigation by the DA's office. When did you want me
It's a letter, and I think I've got a copy that I can give you. There was actually a letter sent.
Okay, do you know when?
I can tell you after the press conference. I just don't have it in front of me. But there was definitely a correspondence with a date, and I can tell you immediately after this press conference.
Did he want that to be narrowed in scope?
All I know is there was a specific request that the district attorney investigate the reports of no-show jobs. There were newspaper reports and media reports of at least one individual who supposedly was on the state payroll and did not show up to work and was not participating in normal operations. And as you know, our alternative work arrangements in the state of Tennessee do not apply to the legislative branch. They're a very narrow exception that apply to other areas of government. So there's simply no legal basis for someone to be receiving state money and not show up for work, particularly not a long-time political operative whose entire expertise is in non-state work.
Why are you all requesting this now?
I thought it was very important to get this out immediately. We've made a series of requests for various types of information, had a series of press conferences, but I thought it was important so there'd be no confusion that we organize the government in an effort to use everybody available to conduct a full investigation. In other words, we don't need to do this ad hoc, looking for this and then that and the other. We have the comptroller, we have public records requests, we have the district attorney for potential criminal matters, and I thought it was important that we get everybody on the same sheet of music and get everybody moving forward, particularly because the governor called the special session, and now that we have a special session coming forward, we obviously can't move forward in this body without knowing everything that occurred. We're not going to allow the special session to become really we're not going to allow the special session to become a tool for a cover-up, which is what it could be if, in fact, a new leadership team is elected that then tries to cover up these investigations, hide these expenditures, and otherwise thwart the public's efforts to find out what really happened.
Do you know if there's any precedent for the comptroller's office investigating spending at the legislature?
I don't, but I do know that they are empowered to do it. So the comptroller's office, I think they will confirm, absolutely has the power to conduct this investigation. Obviously, it's up to the comptroller to decide what exactly is to be done. But I will say the comptroller has issued, as we all know, many very comprehensive investigative reports, and we have confidence that they have the ability to get in here and really figure out dollar for dollar what exactly happened. I mean, we need to know down to the penny where all this money went, who received the money. When you have a situation where a 31-year-old intern with no significant work experience has a $100,000+ increase in his salary, the people are entitled to know, why did that happen? Was there any conceivable justification for that? What really happened with that money? These are the questions that we need professionals to ask and get to the bottom of.
Do you think that, I mean, the comptroller is elected by the Tennessee General Assembly. It's a Republican-controlled General Assembly. He's a Republican. Do you think he'll do this? You know, that he'll accede to your request?
Well, I do think he will, and I will say the comptroller to date, I think, has shown that he is he maybe represents a bygone era of American politics in which Democrats and Republicans often worked toward common goals for the good of the people. I think he's been very independent in many of his investigations, and I have no reason to believe that his office is not fully capable of conducting an independent investigation to benefit the people, and I wouldn't have asked him if I didn't have faith in his abilities and his willingness to take difficult positions when that's what serves the people.